Hello everyone. I'd like to show you today this site called flojoe. It's a site where you can find some exercises, some activities for you to practice for Cambridge examinations. I'm going to focus on the FCE examination and on one part that students sometimes claim to have problems with, which is the use of English, more specifically the open-close part. So we click here on exams, then we click on FCE, the level we have chosen, and I'm going to click here on About FCE so that we can see some information about it. See that you've got summary of the FCE paper, so the part of the examination. You've got paper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the use of English part, which tests you on grammar and vocabulary, is paper 3. I'm going to talk, as I said, about the open-close, which is a text with 12 gaps that candidates have to fill in with the missing words. All these words are grammatical items, for example, prepositions, articles, auxiliary verbs, conjunctions, etc. You have to come up with these words out of the context, out of the grammar. You are not given multiple choice answers to choose from. So here we go. We go here to the left, click on Spotlight Paper 3, Open Close, and then I'm going to go to this part here at the bottom of the page, Practice Tests. So you've got Paper 1, which is reading, that's not the case now, and Paper 3, Use of English, Open Close. And here you've got the text, which is gapped, as you can see. There are 12 gaps, one of which is given as an example, and here on the right side you've got the gaps provided so that you can insert your answer and check, see some hints in case you find it more difficult, and finally see the answer. Let's read the instructions. It's fundamental that you always read instructions. They say here, read the following extract from a brochure giving advice on taking an examination. And for questions 1 to 12, type the word which best fits in each space. Use only one word in each space. That is an example at the beginning. As you can see here, number 0 is 2. So let's read it. You've got, when the day comes, give yourself plenty of time, gap, and it continues like this, do everything. So the word that fits here is this to, representing the infinitive of the verb to do. So reading again, when the day comes, give yourself plenty of time to do everything. Out of the context here, you realize that the word that you need can only be to, because you've got this verb here and it has to be completed with the infinitive form. So the first strategy to use when you do this kind of activity is to find the kind of word you need out of the context. If it's a verb, an auxiliary verb, if it's a preposition, etc. Then you've got to check again the word more precisely, because it may be affirmative, it may be negative. You've got to check according to the context. Let's continue. Have breakfast, but don't drink, number 1 gap, much. So don't drink verb, and then you've got this quantifier here, much, and a gap. Let's go here to the right, we've got gap 1. Probably the best answer should be too much. We may check. So it's correct, thank you very much. So too much, saying that it's more than necessary. That's a piece of advice, as you can see, have breakfast, but don't drink too much. The text goes on like this. Go to the toilet, arrive on time, but not too early, or you will find yourself getting more and more nervous while you wait to start. Try not to talk, number 2 gap again, and the sentence continues like the exam before you go in. Try not to talk to the exam, probably not, because you don't normally talk to the exam, to a piece of paper, even if it's digital, you don't normally do it. I said normally. In this case, it should be probably a preposition about, don't talk about the exam before you go in. Let's click on check, and it's correct again. Yes. So you shouldn't be having a conversation about the exam because you may get nervous, which is true, by the way. Going to the next paragraph, you've got in the exam, calm, gap number 3, down by breathing deeply and thinking positively. See, you've got calm, gap down, so we've got a phrasal verb, and this is a text that is talking about you. So calm who? It should be probably you, because after all, that's who the text is about. So let's talk here, let's type here you and check, so it's not very correct. This much of your answer is correct. You, so the beginning is okay. And let's try another one, self, and check, and now it's correct, because you needed the reflexive pronoun, calm yourself down. And that's the strategy you've got to follow till the end. It's important that when you do this kind of activity, in written form, on a piece of paper, you write your answers in capital letters so that the examiner can easily understand your spelling, your handwriting. Otherwise, you may lose points. Besides this, I'd like to recap some of the hints I gave you. First of all, read the text, read the sentences, and find out the kind of word you need, if it's an auxiliary verb, if it's a preposition, article, etc. Then go for the precise word according to the context. Sometimes, grammatically, 2 words may fit, but only one will fit the context. So pay attention to that too. Prefixes, for example, if it's negative, if it's affirmative, and so on. If you really run out of ideas, you don't know how to complete the gaps, how to fill in the gaps, then as a last resort, you may try to follow your instincts, your experience, and guess. Never leave any gap blank. Always try something there. It's really worth trying. And one last hint, and perhaps one of the most important, is always read in English. The more you read, the easier this kind of activity gets. And also, try to do sometimes, every now and then, this kind of activity, because you will eventually get the hang of it. So, gaps number 4 onwards, up to 12, I'll leave them to you, and you may try this yourselves. Alright? I hope that you have learned how to do this kind of activity typical of FCE, and by the way, CAE and also CPE, the other examinations. Thank you. Talk to you later in another video class. Bye-bye.